He has 12 nicknames for his roommate and gets anxious to rush home to her. My stomach dropped. He gets anxious. That is the word he used. Anxious to leave a date with his girlfriend so he can get home to watch a movie with his roommate. Not tired. Not ready to go home. Anxious. Like he cannot stand the thought of being away from her 1 minute longer than necessary. And this woman, the one waiting for him at home, is 13 years younger than him. They share every hobby, they have 12 separate nicknames for each other, and they stare into each other's eyes during conversations like nobody else in the room exists. Including her. Including the girlfriend he chose. Including the woman trying her absolute hardest to give this man the benefit of the doubt. Let us back up and build this picture properly, because every single detail in this story is important and I do not want you to miss even one of them. She is 28 years old, and she met this guy and thought, okay, he is 35, he seems mature, he seems worth my time. The relationship is new, which means she is still in that phase where you are genuinely trying to figure out if this person is right for you. That phase is delicate and exhausting in equal measure. You are collecting information, cataloging moments, holding each little observation up to the light and asking, does this mean something or am I reading into it? She is asking the right questions. She is paying attention to the details. She is doing exactly what a thoughtful, self-aware person does when they are trying to build something real with someone. And what she is seeing is making her stomach turn in a way she cannot quite explain but absolutely cannot ignore. The roommate is 22. She lives with this 35-year-old man. And right away, the girlfriend clocked the age gap as a potential red flag, not because age gaps are automatically wrong, but because something about the setup felt off before she even had a name to put to the feeling. There is a particular kind of discomfort that arrives before your brain has finished processing the information. Your body knows before your mind catches up. She felt it the moment she heard the arrangement described. Then she met the roommate. And the feeling got a whole lot worse. Every single night, without exception, they watch a movie together. That sounds harmless on its own until you add the next part. It does not matter if the girlfriend is there. He never cancels. He never offers to skip one night so he and his girlfriend can have that experience alone. And they do not have televisions in their bedrooms, so this is not something that happens separately and privately. This is a shared ritual on the main couch, in the main living room, every single night, girlfriend present or not. Picture what that actually looks like. The girlfriend is there, presumably hoping for some version of a real evening together, and instead she is watching her boyfriend settle into a couch next to another woman and begin their nightly routine exactly as if she were not there. Not adjusting for her presence. Not pausing to check in. Just continuing, because this is what they do, and apparently she does not change that. Let me be very clear about what that means. He has decided, consciously or not, that this nightly routine with his roommate is non-negotiable. His girlfriend is optional. His roommate is not. The 12 nicknames hit different though, I have to be honest with you. Most people have maybe 1 or 2 nicknames for someone they are close to. A best friend, a sibling, someone they have known for decades might accumulate a couple over time. 12 is not a friendship metric. 12 is a whole language between 2 people. 12 means they have been paying that much attention to each other, building that many private little references, creating that many moments that belong only to them. Think about what it takes to accumulate 12 nicknames. You have to have lived inside a relationship long enough for humor to calcify into something permanent, for a single funny moment to become a term of endearment, for a shared experience to get compressed into one word that only the 2 of you understand. That does not happen casually. That happens when 2 people have been fully present with each other, fully tuned in, collecting each other in a way that most people reserve for romantic partners. And the hobbies. They share more hobbies than he and his girlfriend do. They know everything about each other. They are more similar to each other than he and his girlfriend are. That is not something he stumbled into. That is a relationship where someone has been prioritized, where someone has been chosen again and again in small quiet ways that add up, where someone has become the center of a person's daily life in a way that his actual romantic partner simply has not. You do not accidentally share more with your roommate than with the person you are dating. That kind of closeness is built through consistent investment of time and attention, through choosing to show up for someone repeatedly, through making their interests your interests because you want to be close to them. He made those choices. He just did not make them about his girlfriend. The eye contact detail is the one that made me pause the longest, if I am being honest with you. Because eye contact is intimate. Real, sustained, charged eye contact between two people who are not romantically involved is rare. It is the kind of thing that happens naturally between people who feel something for each other, even if neither of them has named it yet, even if one or both of them would deny it under oath. Most people break eye contact. Most people glance away, check their phones, look at the ceiling. Sustained eye contact requires a willingness to be seen, a comfort with closeness, an attention that you do not offer to just anyone. She noticed it. She was sitting right there and she noticed it. That means it was not a fleeting glance. That means it lasted long enough, felt weighted enough, that she could not explain it away. That means it was visible enough to feel like something. She feels like a third wheel during movie nights. In his apartment. On a date that is supposed to be about the two of them. She is sitting there while they share inside jokes she does not understand, references that belong to a world she has not been invited into, a closeness that fills the room and leaves her on the outside looking in. She is physically present and emotionally invisible at the same time. She can feel the warmth between them from across the couch while also feeling the cold of being excluded, and she cannot even say anything without looking jealous or difficult or insecure. That is a specific kind of loneliness, the kind where you are surrounded by people and still completely alone. And he has apparently never once looked over at her and thought, wait, is this okay? Is she comfortable? Does she feel included? Does she feel chosen? He brings her up constantly. Constantly. Not the way you mention a roommate because you share a space and things overlap naturally. The way you bring up someone who is always in your head. The way you reference someone because they are the lens through which you are experiencing your life. She is woven into everything he says, everything he talks about, every story he tells. His roommate laughed at this thing the other day. His roommate introduced him to this show. His roommate has this opinion about that thing. And the girlfriend is sitting across from him, nodding, smiling politely, feeling the shape of a person she has never even properly met take up more and more space in the conversation. After a while it stops reading like someone mentioning their living situation and starts reading like someone who cannot stop talking about the person they are in love with. There is a difference between a name that comes up and a name that follows you. This name follows him everywhere. She has been cheated on before. Multiple times. So she is sitting with all of this, carrying the weight of past betrayals while also trying desperately to be fair, to not project, to give this man a real chance without letting her history cloud her judgment. That is an incredibly hard position to be in. It means every instinct that fires gets filtered through a second layer of self-questioning. Am I feeling this because it is real, or am I feeling this because I have been hurt before? Am I seeing something, or am I seeing what I am afraid of? That kind of self-doubt is the lasting damage that betrayal leaves behind. It does not go away cleanly. It sits in the corner of every new relationship and whispers. And it takes genuine emotional maturity to say, okay, my trust issues exist, I need to factor that in. Here is the thing though. She does not feel this way about any of his other female friends. Not a single one. That is important. That is actually the most important sentence in her entire post. Because if this were purely about her insecurities, she would feel some version of this discomfort with all of them. Insecurity does not discriminate that neatly. It does not look at one woman and shrug and look at another and sound the alarm. That kind of specific, targeted, unshakable unease is not insecurity. That is perception. She does not. Only this one. The one who lives with him. The one he rushes home to. The one with 12 nicknames and nightly rituals and lingering eye contact and a closeness that has quietly pushed his girlfriend to the edges of his life. Her gut is not broken. Her gut is working perfectly. She brought it up once. Once. And his response was to deliver a little speech about how he believes opposite-sex friendships are healthy, which, again, I agree with. That is not what she said. She did not say his roommate cannot be his friend. She said she was uncomfortable with the specific dynamic. And instead of hearing that, instead of sitting with her discomfort for a moment and taking it seriously, instead of looking at it through her eyes for even one moment, he handed her a philosophy lecture and moved on. He reframed her very specific concern as a general philosophical position he could easily defend, which meant he never actually had to engage with what she was really saying. That is not a person working through something honestly with their partner. That is a person closing a door. That tells you something about how much he is actually willing to examine this situation honestly. A person who genuinely had nothing to hide would not reach for a deflection. They would sit with the discomfort their partner was expressing and engage with it, because that is what you do when you respect someone and want them to feel secure. He did not do that. He reached for the nearest argument he could win and used it to end the conversation. That is a choice. And it tells you exactly where his priorities were. She said she did not want to put a wedge in their friendship if she was just being insecure. She was protecting his relationship with another woman while her own needs went completely unaddressed. She was doing the emotional labor of minimizing her own discomfort so that he would not have to feel uncomfortable. She was bending herself into a shape that did not hurt him while he did not appear to be bending at all. That imbalance is its own kind of answer. And then the update came. Short, devastating, and delivered with the kind of exhausted humor that only makes sense when someone has finally stopped trying to unsee what has been in front of them the whole time. You could feel the relief in it, the specific lightness of someone who has put down a weight they were not supposed to be carrying in the first place. She was not angry in the update. She was done. And done is sometimes the most dignified thing a person can be. She broke up with him so he can be with his wife in peace. She did not say girlfriend. She said wife. Which means whatever she found out or figured out after the fact was worse than the roommate situation. It was always worse than the roommate situation. The roommate situation was just the part that was visible, the part that left enough plausible deniability for him to give speeches about friendship and for her to second-guess her own reading of the room. The actual situation was something he had built behind closed doors, something with a legal name attached to it, something that made every moment she spent wondering if she was overreacting into something almost unbearably sad to look back on. She was never just uncomfortable. She was right. The girl deserves so much credit for listening to herself when it mattered. Because she was already doing the work of questioning her instincts, weighing her past against her present, trying to be fair, trying to be the kind of partner who does not blow up a good thing over nothing. She gave him more grace than most people would have. And when the truth revealed itself, it revealed her instincts were never the problem. Her instincts were the only thing in that relationship functioning correctly. Here is where I stand, and I am not going to soften this. A 35-year-old man with a 22-year-old roommate he watches movies with every night, rushes home to, has 12 nicknames for, and shares more in common with than his own girlfriend was never confused about his feelings. He knew exactly what was happening in that apartment. He just needed his girlfriend not to know. And when she started asking questions, he gave her a textbook response about healthy friendships and waited for her to drop it. She did not drop it. She watched. She felt everything her gut was telling her to feel. And eventually she walked away from a man who was already somewhere else entirely, even when he was sitting right next to her on the couch. Walking away from someone you genuinely liked, someone you wanted to work, is painful. But staying would have been more painful. She made the right call. Full stop. The only thing she got wrong was thinking, even for a second, that she might be the problem. She refused to show me the texts, started crying, and a week later I found out the truth. She refused to show him the messages. That is the sentence this entire story lives inside. She asked him to trust her, she asked him to believe she had not done anything wrong, and then when he asked to see the proof with his own eyes, she refused. Not once. Multiple times. He had come into this conversation already reluctant. Already in pain. He had spent days sitting with the weight of suspicion, that particular kind of heaviness that settles into your chest when someone you love has given you a reason to doubt them but not yet enough reason to act. He had gone public with his situation, received a flood of opinions and responses, heard from strangers who told him to leave and strangers who told him to stay, and after all of that noise he decided to give her one more chance to explain herself. He sat across from her and kept an open mind. He left a small possibility open that she had not actually cheated, that there was some context he was missing, some misunderstanding that could be unraveled with a calm conversation. He was trying. He was genuinely trying to be fair to someone who may not have deserved that fairness. She had contacted him repeatedly before that meeting. She had not gone quiet and let him process. She kept pushing, kept calling, kept asking for the chance to be heard, as though the urgency she felt about being listened to was more important than the space he needed to think. And when he finally agreed and asked for one simple, reasonable thing, she shut it down immediately. That moment right there. That is the whole story. Think about what it actually means to refuse that request in that context. She is sitting across from a partner who is visibly hurting, who suspects her of something serious, who has agreed against his better instincts to hear her out one more time. She says she wants to clear the air. She says she wants to repair things. She says she wants him to believe her. All he is asking for is to see the conversation that started all of this. One chat log. One piece of evidence that would immediately and completely back up her version of events if her version were true. It would have cost her nothing except the 30 seconds it took to unlock her phone and hand it over. And she said no. There is no innocent explanation for that. I have genuinely tried to think of one and I cannot get there. If those messages showed nothing concerning, showing them would have ended the conversation instantly. It would have been the fastest and most effective way to rebuild trust. She would have handed over the phone before he finished asking. The relief on her face would have been real because the relief would have been earned. The fact that she did not, the fact that she refused not just once but multiple times, tells you everything you need to know about what was in those messages. And then she pivoted. Instead of explaining, instead of finding some other way to address his concern, she started blaming him. She brought up old arguments. She reached back into the history of their relationship and pulled out grievances she had apparently been saving. She redirected. She cried. She turned his reasonable and direct question into a referendum on his behavior as a partner, his emotional availability, his past mistakes, anything that could shift the weight off of her and onto him. That is a deflection technique. That is what people do when they have no defense and no honest way to answer the question being asked. They do not answer the question. They change what the question is. He saw it. He recognized it for what it was. And he ended it right there. I want to pause here because what he did in that moment took real clarity, the kind that is genuinely difficult to access when you are sitting across from someone you have loved and watching them cry. He was already hurting. He had already done the emotional labor of deciding to hear her out, of lowering his guard just enough to let her try to explain. He had walked into that room carrying hope alongside suspicion. And then she refused the one thing that would have made a real difference, and instead of spiraling or begging or softening because her tears made him feel guilty, he made the call. He held the line. He did not confuse emotion for evidence. She told him he did not fight for the relationship. I am sorry, but what? She is the one who refused to show him evidence that would have cleared her name in 30 seconds. She is the one who came to a reconciliation conversation and then blamed him for everything else instead of answering the one question that mattered. She is the one who had apparently already been planning a trip with this other person while simultaneously asking her boyfriend to trust her, forgive her, and give her another chance. She sat there performing heartbreak and then told the person she had deceived that he was the one who had not tried hard enough. That is genuinely breathtaking. He said he could not continue when she was hiding so many things from him. That is not someone abandoning a relationship out of stubbornness or pride. That is someone drawing a line at basic honesty and meaning it. There is a real and important difference between those two things. She was banking on him not being able to hold that line. She was banking on his feelings for her being stronger than his knowledge of what those feelings were costing him. She was wrong. A week later he found out they had been planning a trip together. Not just exchanging a few flirty texts, not just the early warm and uncertain stage of something emotional. Planning. Coordinating dates, booking arrangements, building something with a future shape to it, a shared future that she was quietly constructing while still technically in a relationship with him. While still calling him and asking to talk. While still crying in front of him and asking him to believe her. All of it happening at the same time. That detail reframes the entire story in the worst possible way. Because it means that when she was refusing to show him the messages, she was not just protecting a conversation. She was protecting a plan. She was protecting something that had already moved well past a coworker who liked her, well past a one-on-one outing she had failed to mention. She was managing him, keeping him close enough that he would not completely shut the door, but uncertain enough that she could control how things unfolded until she was ready to make her next move. That is not someone caught in a moment of weakness. That is someone running two tracks simultaneously and hoping neither one noticed the other. He felt depressed after the breakup. Of course he did. That depression was not a sign that he had made the wrong choice. It was the natural and honest response to losing something that had once meant a great deal to him, even if what he had lost turned out to be less real than he believed. He initiated the end. He knew it was the right call. And it still hurt the way these things always hurt, with a particular ache that comes not just from missing the person but from grieving the version of them you thought you knew. Knowing you made the right decision does not make the loss feel smaller. It does not stop you from waking up in the morning and reaching for something that is no longer there. The depression makes complete sense. It does not mean he was wrong. Here is my final take, and I mean every word of this. She did not lose this relationship because he was too rigid or too controlling or too unwilling to fight. She lost it because she got caught. She was given a fair and reasonable path to transparency, and she chose to protect her secret instead of her relationship. Those are her choices, and their consequences belong entirely to her. He asked one question. He deserved an honest answer. She gave him everything but that. And he did something a lot of people in that position cannot bring themselves to do. He believed what the evidence was actually telling him instead of what he wanted to hear. That is hard. That is genuinely hard. And he did it even while hurting, even while leaving the door open, even while still caring about her. The trip. That is the detail that seals it completely. She was already planning her next chapter while still performing remorse in front of him. The tears, the calls, the repeated attempts to talk, all of it was happening at the same time as the planning. That is not someone who made a mistake and is trying to make it right. That is someone who got caught midway through something and tried to manage the fallout without actually stopping the thing that caused it. He is going to be okay. The depression will lift. And when it does, he will look back on this moment and recognize it clearly for what it was. The moment he chose himself over a comfortable lie. That choice was right. That choice was worth making. And anyone who tells him he should have fought harder for that relationship has never been lied to by someone who cried while doing it. Drop a comment below and let me know which story hit harder for you. I genuinely need to know. And if you made it this far, a like and subscribe would mean the world.